Hello, welcome back with our new lesson. Today, in this lesson, we are going to learn what is an economic system. So, economic systems is an important topic which we have to study about when we learn economics. So, from today's lesson, I hope to provide you an idea what is an economic system and how the economic systems are classified. So let's look at the definition. An economic system can be defined as the institutional framework designed by man in order to solve basic economic problems in an economy. The economic system is defined as an institutional framework designed by man in order to solve the basic economic problems of an economy. An economic system operates following an institutional structure. So let's identify what are the main criteria used in classifying economic systems. There are three main criteria which are used to classify economic systems. They are decision making coordination in the economy, or we call it as decision coordination mechanism, ownership of property or ownership of resources, and the nature of incentives. So these are the three basic criteria used in classifying an economic system. So now we are clear about the criteria used in classifying economic systems. Again, they are coordination mechanism, ownership of property, and nature of incentives. We'll see separately what are the various criteria used. Decision coordination mechanism means how the decisions about what and how much to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce are coordinated among various institutions of the economy. At the beginning of the economic systems, in the definition, we recognize that an economic system is performed in order to solve the basic economic problems: what and how much to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. So by the decision coordination mechanism, it means who are making economic decisions regarding the basic economic problem. So in an economic system, there is a proper way of making economic decisions. Either the markets or the government of each country is deciding about the production of goods and services. According to the main decision-making mechanism, there are two types of economic systems: market economic systems and command economic systems. The decision-making process in a market economic system takes place based on the private property ownership, or the private sector of the economy makes all the economic decisions regarding what and how much to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. So the decisions are made by the private sector in a market economy. In a command economic system, decisions are made by the centrally planned authority. These days we can call it as the government. Earlier in command economies, in the early times of beginning of economic systems, in some countries they had a planned authority appointed to make the economic decisions, but now it is identified as the government in most of the countries. Let's see how the economic systems are classified based on the resource ownership or according to the ownership of properties or resources. In the economic system, the productive resources can be owned either by the private sector or the government sector. So depending on who owns the resources, there are two types of economic systems: capitalist economic system and socialist economic systems. So depending on, in capitalist economic systems, the private sector owns the resources, and in socialist economic systems, government owns all the resources except labor. So here resources mean the four types of factors of production. Accordingly, in the capitalist economic systems, the private sector owns all the four production factors: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. But in a socialist economic system, the government belongs the factors of production or the resources except labor. That means land, capital, and entrepreneurship belong by the government. So the last criteria used in classifying economic systems is incentives. What is an incentive? An incentive means the returns or encouragement towards engaging at economic activities. So everybody engages in economic activities expecting a return. So incentive means what is the return for engaging in any economic activities. There are various forms of incentives. We will identify different forms of incentives. So incentives are different in different economic systems. According to the nature of incentives, we can identify three types of incentives: material incentives, moral incentives, and coercive incentives. Material, moral incentives, and coercive incentives. Material incentives mean physical returns for engaging in economic activities. If someone receives something physical for engaging in economic activities, coercive incentives and moral incentives mean a state of achievement which cannot be seen physically. For example, social welfare. These incentives can be seen within command economies. So according to the characteristics or the criteria we use to classify economic systems, so according to the characteristics, we can identify four economic systems existed in the world: traditional economic systems, market economic systems, command and mixed economic systems. Based on the criteria we discussed before, at the beginning of economic systems, the existed system is traditional economic systems. Later in the next part of this lesson, I expect to discuss all the characteristics. Be subscribed to this channel so that you will not miss the next lessons.